I call the meeting to order. I have an agenda that is available for approval. Does anybody want to? Actually, we'll start with a roll call first. Roll call we'll do by. I've got all your names here. I got Andrew Quint Chittenden, John Hill Benson.
I'm here.
Okay, Larry Corsell Menden.
Here.
Cassandra Hayes Goshen. Chris Custard Huberton.
Yep.
And Tom, do you prefer Tom or Thomas?
No, Tom's fine, and I'm here.
Okay, well, Tom Collard. And then Thomas Franco or Tom.
Thomas is fine.
Okay, and Tom Collard Pollitt. All right, Thomas. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, so we've got our roll call. We do have enough for our quorum. Moving on to agenda item number 2, approval of the agenda. They want to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second, Larry.
There's Andrew with the first.
Yes.
And then Larry with the second. Any any modifications anyone want to make? Aside from the adopt, I would ask that we drop approving wells, only because that'll put us out of a quorum. At this point, we'll wait till the next meeting. So we'll drop agenda item number 3. All those in favor of the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, we have an approved agenda. So moving on to new agenda item number 3, executive committee update. We had I will provide that as chair. I had the pleasure of a terse and pithy meeting of the executive committee, basically so that we could do our elections and stay within our statutory requirement to have an annual meeting and a reorganizational meeting. And we were reorganized. And Amanda, do you remember nothing else really came out of that?
No, it was was elections for chair, vice chair, and I received approval to apply on behalf of the CUD for funds stemming from the passing of H315. So it's the pre-construction and capacity grant application that we were notified of being available last Wednesday and asked to apply by Monday. So luckily we had that approval in advance and we did submit that application. I'll go into that more in another agenda item.
Okay. All right. So that is the executive committee update. Any questions from anybody about that? Seeing none. Moving on to agenda item number 4, a legislative update, H315 and H360. Amanda.
So there's no update on whether or not H360 is passed. Sounds like there's been a lot of ongoing and continued discussion. So we're waiting to hear what happens with that. There's a lot of money tied up and associated with that. So it's definitely a bit of waiting with bated breath. H315 passed, which allowed for the capacity and pre-construction grant to be made available. And we did apply for that to include funds for someone to help keep up with social media and postings. So if we receive funding for that, that'd be great. Otherwise, I promise to work on being better to help as I help the CUD with its outreach, postings, and communication. That said, we were told there'd be 2 rounds of applications and maybe not to worry about applying this round, but we were concerned. So we worked our tookuses off to apply and submitted an application package, which is good that we got it in on time, considering we did receive notice today that they've already received applications for funds that exceed the 1.6 million that was allotted. So we've been asked to prioritize spending. Our priority has been placed on receiving funds for a high-level engineering study and strategic consulting advice. The high-level engineering study, we received a proposal from Finley Engineering, who has worked in Vermont and has a good reputation. So that's priority. We absolutely need those funds to lock them into place with that proposal and get into their queue for the work plan. It would be ill-advised to continue any discussions with potential providers if we don't have the numbers in place or lined up. So this leads to sequence. Hopefully we receive the funds to have that study done so we can then, it'll probably take about 3 months, have the information needed to continue discussions with potential providers, which then once those become concrete will allow us to finalize and write up and finalize a business plan. So that's why that all matters. Does anyone have any discussions? I can also send out the application package if anyone wants to see it. Please let me know. And we should hopefully hear something in the next week and a half, actually, in regards to what they decide to fund us for.
And Tom Collard from Pollitt has a question.
Yeah, Amanda, you say that we applied and then they came back saying that the funds exceeded the applications. And relook, I mean, did we have to relook at our application as Otter Creek and lower our expectation? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they received applications for funds passing $2 million. So they asked questions in the terms of what would be your priority if they had to prioritize. And if things were lower in priority, could those funds be received later on or in installments, like a monthly amount? So we did write back with a priority, placing the broadband study first and foremost. Second priority was additional strategic consulting advice to feed into the business plan, so it's robust in the inputs. Number 3 was emphasis on extra support for legal fees. We do have, the CUD does have enough to pay for continued legal fees, but we wanted to make sure we had sufficient funds on hand, depending on what happens with the back and forth in the structuring and negotiations of potential contracts.
Okay, and what, in our application, what was our total request for dollars for Otter Creek? Do you
I think
have
it was
that?
151,000.
Okay,
And I can send that to you, but the breakdown was 59,000 for high-level broadband design and strategic planning, 36,000 for additional technical assistance and negotiations and contracts specific to public-private partnerships, $11,000 for legal fees. Sorry, I let my daughter walk away with a crayon. Probably not the best parent move. And we went pretty crazy, seeing we saw what other CUDs might be applying for IT support and assistance. So we went low and asked for 20, but I honestly have no idea what that could cost. And we'd have to go through a bid process.
okay,
And then we asked for 20 for potential additional grant administration, management, and reporting assistance. So actually
Okay.
the overall was 146.
okay. Super, thank you.
Yep.
John?
Any other questions?
Yeah, Bill.
John Hill.
Amanda, what do we hope to learn from the engineering study?
Oh, so lots, and I think that'd probably be best suited if I could actually send you the proposal, because they use big words that I haven't committed to memory. But overall, you're looking at the most feasible technology, emphasis on fiber, but they will be evaluating if it's not financially viable, depending on what our status is, what other options might be to meet as fast as possible communication needs. So that was another reason we selected that particular company, is because it would be doing some additional financial assessment. But looking at the numbers, the size of the region, cost of construction, especially factoring in whether or not it's just going to be aerial line or subterranean. So whether or not they'll have to dig, depending on where lines sit or don't sit as is. So it's overall the dollar cost and other numbers associated with the future network.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but please let me know if anyone wants to see that. It's public information.
And they were great. I mean, they were great to meet with, and they carved out some time for us, and they considered us to be rather urban relative to some of the spaces they worked in rural Minnesota, right? Amanda? They were talking about, boy, you guys have a lot of people there. It's like, okay. So I mean, they have some experience in rural areas. So
But in rural Minnesota, you see something, a little bump in the surface, and it's 20 miles away, and it's a feed mill.
Right.
The topography is a little different.
Sure. We were encouraged that they were willing to consider us again urban as far as the ability to serve this small of a population. I mean, especially outside of some of these cores. Any further questions? All right. See, now I'm going to move on to agenda item grant updates. That's sort of
That's
kind of
synonymous.
yeah.
I guess the only update is less so much in regards to, it's not a new grant, but the RPC did finalize all the transaction and confirmation necessary to transfer funds to the CUD's new bank account. And for those that aren't aware, when the CUD started last summer, Vermont Community Foundation had emergency funds to offer CUDs for operational support. And the CUD did not yet have stuff like EIN and a bank account and DUNS numbers and all those things. So our RPC agreed to act as the fiscal sponsor to hold those funds to support the CUD in using them. But now that the CUD is able, those funds have been or are being transferred to the CUD. So
Very good.
Any other questions about grant updates? I mean, sort of kind of covered in a legislative update as well, where we are sitting at with the application for state funding.
Yeah, excuse me, Bill.
Yes, Tom Collard.
I would like to take Amanda up. I would like to see those numbers. If you don't mind, forward them to me. That would be nice.
Yep, I'll send you the entire application package, which includes the proposals.
Okay, thank you.
And anybody else?
Just to let you know, I just received in the mail the checks for the CUD.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as we get the check from you, Amanda, and get it deposited in the bank, we will be all set to go.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Thank you.
That's Jack Zavala, treasurer. All right. Moving on, looking at, didn't want to print out the agenda. I should have though, because I keep looking at the next thing is VCUDA update. Our VCUDA rep is not here. So and I am not attending the VCUDA. It was the gentleman from Wallingford, Jordan Jacobs.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's not here to give that update. So we will pass over that agenda item on VCUDA. And if there's anybody else who wants to be an alternate on VCUDA and get a bunch of emails, either
A lot of emails.
a ton of emails. Again, so many emails that your Outlook keeps turning them to junk. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of support there, though. I mean, there's a lot of great information with VCUDA if you're looking for, there's a lot of great minds. But so new member recruitment would be our next agenda item. Nice job. It sounds like Wells is in the queue, ready to be approved by us at our next meeting. We
Still
chose
working
not.
on Wells or Wallingford and Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury had a question. Apparently, many other citizens are worried about losing their copper lines if they're replaced by fiber. And I couldn't answer the question whether or not that actually does happen or what the issue would be with that. But just as an FYI.
That's interesting.
Yep.
A real interesting question, because I gotta tell you something, as somebody sitting on the copper lines up here in Hubbardton and at Otelco company that we have, I got a bad feeling. They're not really taking care of stuff like they should be. And I think they're already disinterested in, they know the future of broadband and they're not it. And I just have a really bad feeling that I could end up in a bad way up here if they lose too much interest, because I don't know how much longer they're gonna, it's not a regulated industry, so, if they just don't keep on this thing, do they really have a lot of incentive to fix stuff or to keep it going? And I want to make it clear, my broadband here right now is good. It's a solid 10 meg. It's been that, but I'm on the fire department here, and we've had automobile accidents down on Route 30 where entire poles have been wiped out, and the Green Mountain Power has reset the poles, and I can tell you Otelco lines are just sitting on practically on the ground. And they've been there for like 3 years. They refuse to fix anything. And I'm like, that just don't set good with me.
My daughter's actually noticed that. Is that the right there where it kind of opens up by Hubbardton down in the bottom?
That's it.
Yeah, my daughter's noticed. She's like, what's going on? There must have been an accident. I go, that's been there for years.
Yeah. And there's another one down the road, just a piece there. And it's like, they're not doing stuff. And they've got stuff like taped and bubble gum wrapped down the other end going across Route 30. And I'm like, this isn't good because, the buildings are just not cared for. They're getting overgrown. And I know right where the DSL equipment is, I never see anybody there anymore. It's just not a good feeling. And it's like, they know these CUDs are being formed and stuff. And I just got an email from them the other day, or actually in the mail, about some program that helps you pay for your broadband, if you're not able to pay for it. But it looked like something they were forced to send. That the federal government is, wanting to let people know that, hey, you can get help if you're having trouble financially. But I thought it was going to be something else to do with, the broadband push. And it's like, no, it wasn't that at all. So those are interesting questions that others have, about the copper lines here. Because I don't think the future is for this.
I have Otelco too in Benson, and I don't have any confidence that they are planning any updates to anything. I've heard several stories about them being downright rude to customers calling in. They were advertising on their website that there was a faster internet speed available. I'm right on the Orwell line on 22A, so if it's coming down from Shoreham, I'd be the first to have it. I called about it and they said, well, call back in 3 weeks and it'll be ready. I called back in 3 weeks and they said, oh, we don't know anything about that. So I don't have any confidence that they have any plan for the future. And I've heard rumors that they'd like to get rid of the old Shoreham Tel business, but that's nothing more than the rumor.
Yeah, they don't. I heard somebody say they don't do the multiple modems anymore, like I have in my house. They refuse to do them, so it's like that's not good. So I'm sort of like grandfathered in with this 10 meg connection. But if something happens, I feel like I'm screwed. I'm really done here. So that I think we could potentially see more pressure in the state of Vermont with areas like this if that starts to happen, because it's like you're going to lose something you even already have, making it worse. So now I'm really seeing that these CUDs are like really, really important. It's like we got to do something in the state of Vermont here, or else we're really going to go backwards.
It seemed to me like they have DSL service to most of the houses they serve, and they're charging us $50-$60 a month for the service. It seemed like they'd want to at least maintain that revenue, and they're not going to without upgrading.
Yeah, and that's all money. It all comes down to how much can they make, and I don't see a bright future for them. You know what I'm saying? They're either going to have to dramatically raise prices, or it's just not good. And then you got to think about, from their perspective, all these CUDs going on. They're like, well, why the hell would we invest? To be what? Thrown out because it's copper garbage? I mean, they would have to be the ones saying they want to do the copper. The fiber.
Maybe it's worth making a phone call to, I had some, Colleen Wright, who works as an assistant, who's a Sudbury rep, mentioned that, more issues with Otelco, and I'm trying to track down somebody that would return a phone call there just to say like, hey, we're the CUD, let's talk. You know, what can we do to help you guys get
Yeah.
fiber? You know, like that. We can continue on with emails to that email campaign. Maybe if, you know, Chris and or John want to send them an email, just letting them know that you're a member of the CUD and that there's potential exists that to partner. Tom Collard, you have a hand raised.
Yeah, I think these are actually discouraging conversations, but very important conversations. That this is a risk that sounds like with a couple of our members here that could experience it in their area. And I wonder, you know, has the state looked at this as an issue? Is there something the state's putting in place? Is anyone aware of that? Because I think these are very valid concerns. And I, you know, as a business person, you know, it's return on investment. And if I'm going to be kicked to the curb 3 years from now, why would I invest millions of dollars to improve what I currently got? And I agree, John, you know, $50, $60 a residence, you know, per house, it's running with a line, but you're not talking enough to pay it back if it's only a 6 or 8 month return, because we're going to have fiber in their dooryard. So this could be a ricochet, and I'm glad Wallingford asked that question about the copper lines. And I do believe that we ought to send this up the flagpole to find out if the state's prepared for this.
Right. I agree. And I, you know, and again, I think that this also, you know, sort of begs the question, or at least, you know, gives us some duties as our town reps to reach out to some of these incumbent providers and say, hey, we've joined this CUD. We don't want to see you go away. What can you do to work with us so we can make sure that we're all working toward maintaining, you know, connections for phone service and for internet. I mean, I think that's sort of the model that they're looking at with CUDs, and that, like, you know, you know what's going on in Pollitt, John knows what's going on in Benson, Chris knows what's going on in Hubbardton, you know, that, you know, we act as a clearinghouse or a oversight for them, or on the other end, a connection to the CUD so that we can come up with some kind of a plan where we're working together, because we're not looking to become a competitor. We're looking to make sure people are connected.
Yeah, we want to be a partnership in this, and if we can offer some type of partnership to include our current services some way, I mean, I think that's a fair question to extend out there.
Chris, do you want to contact Hotelco on behalf of the CUD, or should I, or should we both?
I would say the more the merrier, to be honest with you, because I have a funny feeling it's going to be a black hole anyway, but you know, yeah.
All right.
So
So
I'll make some calls and draft something and copy you, and please copy me on anything you do.
Yes.
fantastic. And we'll add it on as an agenda item for next meeting so we can talk about if there's been any results, or, you know, so it doesn't fall off the table.
Yeah, because we definitely want to encourage success to the CUD and not have created a bigger problem in certain pockets of the country that we all live in. So
Absolutely. I agree. Looking at like too many tabs. OCUD. Our next agenda item. Why do I have? Oh, I keep. Oh, sorry about this, guys. I just need to pull my agenda back up. It's lost in amongst my many tabs. Where are you? Why is this?
I think it was other business, which
Okay.
we touched on, and then
Okay.
confirming the next meeting date.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. I can't believe I can't pull it up. So any other business to attend to before we set our next meeting? Okay. Looking at the calendar, we've been doing this third Wednesday. So by my calculation, it'll be the 16th of June. Does that work for everybody? Tom? Collard.
Yeah, I wanted to check, do we have enough? I mean, I've been kind of pushing one of the select board chair to get Wells to join as a side town to us down here in Paulet. Do we have enough members to where we could recircle back and vote on that tonight, or is that got to be tabled till next month?
Well, Wells finally did vote to join. So, and they did actually send their paperwork, which is wonderful. I'm very grateful. And your reaching out to them made all the difference, quite literally. So thank you for that. So it's purely a formality to vote them as a member tonight.
Right. I mean, and again, excuse my, I'm sorry to interrupt. You know, my understanding of Robert's rules or boards, you know, at the point at which we vote them in, then we're out of, we don't have a quorum. Does the meeting have to officially end?
Okay.
Like, I'm not sure, you know, like they're in for all intents and purposes. We'll be contacting them as though they are in, but you know, but because of tonight, because we only have the 8 members that we have here, we can't vote them in without losing our quorum.
Okay, I thank you for at least relooking at it. And
Yeah.
thanks for the update, Amanda, that they sent in all their paperwork.
Thank you for all your work, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough nut to crack, and yeah, Paula, you know, it's magic. I don't know if it was whatever you had to do. Nice job.
Persistent prevailed, I guess.
So next meeting set for June 16th, same time. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
Move that
motion
we
for us
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Sound like Tom, and then who was this? Second was
John Hill, I second.
John Hill. Okay, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next